Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's December 17th, a Thursday, so that means we're talking Chiefs. And there was plenty to discuss with Sam Mellinger, Vahe Gregorian, Herbie Teope, and Sam McDowell on SportsBeat Live earlier in the day. The Chiefs are headed to New Orleans on Sunday with many questions along the offensive line, especially at tackle. Might be time to check out the depth chart to see what the Chiefs have behind Eric Fisher and Mike Remmers. Also, Travis Kelce is having an incredible season on and off the field. And we get into the game against the Saints. It's a marquee matchup between the top team in the AFC and the team that would be the number 2 seed in the NFC playoffs if the season ended today. So who has the edge and why? All of this on SportsBeat KC, so let's get started. Hey, good morning from Kansas City, and welcome to SportsBeat Live, where we talk Chiefs with the folks who know the team best and with you, our audience. And let's just introduce let's introduce our panel and their pets. Let's start first with Sam McDowell. How are you, Sam?
Hey, I'm doing well. How's it going? Good.
Sam Mellinger is here in the KC ball cap. Looks good. And so is, who is that, Sam? And Vahe, your dogs are very well behaved this morning.
They're representing from afar, Blair, but they're closing in.
Okay, so that means the office door is closed. And of course, Herbie Teope is here. No dogs there, Herbie, but we might see a feline or two prowling around.
Just a couple of cats, but they're well behaved. They're sleeping right now. You know, it's their morning nap.
Very good. Hey, so we got a lot to talk about today with the Chiefs and the Saints playing on Sunday. Who Dat Nation? I love that nickname. I've always loved that nickname for Saints fans. And we want you to send us your questions and comments so we can get to as many of them as we can. Michael Blair already weighed in. He had heard some maniacal laughing before we went on the air. Michael, that was Herbie that you heard. And for reasons that will become evident as the show progresses, we're going to talk a lot to Herbie today. Okay, let's just start with Herbie. Because he always kicks us off with the injury report, and I'll tell you what, it's pretty significant what we heard on Wednesday, and it impacts an entire position group, and we're going to get into that. So Herbie, get us going. Hey, but Herbie, let's start with this. Let's start on the other side of the ball. What's the latest on Drew Brees, and then let's go Chiefs.
All right, the latest on Drew Brees was he was designated to return yesterday on Wednesday. So that means he is able to practice. But Sean Payton, he didn't appear overly optimistic with us during our conference call. You know, he basically said they're not going to rush him back just for a game. They want to make sure that he's okay and he's, for the stretch run, because you do need a healthy Drew Brees. The Saints offense is completely different without Drew Brees. So whether he returns this week remains to be seen, but it's a huge game for the Saints because they lost the number 1 seed last week. They're sitting on a 10-3 record, but the Packers, who won, owned the tiebreaker with them. So this is a big game for them. And, against a team which is a good, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's a good barometer to see where they really are, because Saints and Chiefs, this is a potential preview what a lot of people believe could be a Super Bowl matchup. And they want that number 1 seed down there. They want home field advantage at the Superdome. So that's the big one out of New Orleans.
And I can't think the Saints would want to risk further injury to Drew Brees and rush him back just to get this game. I think for the Saints, part of the narrative this week has to be, do you want Drew Brees back and play 3 playoff games, or do you ride Taysom Hill and maybe get that first round bye, but still have Hill as your quarterback? I think that's a question that Sean Payton has to answer this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the key thing here is, once again, make sure that he is going to be healthy for the postseason, because the Saints are in. They already clinched a playoff berth, so they want him healthy for the postseason run.
Okay, we'll have more to talk about with New Orleans here as the show goes on, but let's let's get on to the Chiefs side of the ball. And as I mentioned, there's one particular position group that's really being impacted by injuries now. It's been the case for the last couple of weeks. But take us through it, Herbie. Of course, it's the offensive line.
Yeah, the two bookends, the starting right tackle, Mike Remmers, and starting left tackle, Eric Fisher, did not practice Wednesday with what Andy Reid called a tight back. I'm more concerned about Mike Remmers because he left Week 14's game with that back injury and didn't finish it. Fisher's back might have tightened up after it because you remember Reid, when he came out with the injuries after Sunday's game, didn't mention Fisher. So maybe they're resting him. But Remmers is the one that's really concerning because he's filling in for Mitchell Schwartz, who was eligible to come back from injured reserve this week, but he didn't practice yesterday and he wasn't designated to return. So this leaves them very thin at the tackle positions. You got to think Yasser Durant will probably start at right tackle if Remmers can't go. If Fisher can't go, goodness gracious, who are you going to put over there on that left side? Martinez Rankin is a guy who can play guard and tackle, so he makes sense. But I don't think you want to go into this game against Cam Jordan and Trey Hendrickson not knowing who your tackles are.
Hendrickson's 10.5 sacks this year, having a terrific, probably the best season of his career. I mean, are there other possibilities? Andrew Wiley, perhaps? Who else can play? Brian Witzman? I mean, who else can play tackle for the Chiefs if it comes
and
to
those
that?
are good names to toss out there because, you can always pull up Steven Wisniewski from the practice squad like they did the last 2 weeks and insert him at guard. You got a lot of moving pieces here. And then thankfully we get Eric Bieniemy this afternoon. And this is probably a subject that needs to come up and will be brought up. Who are your guys that you're going to have there at tackle if Fisher and Remmers can't go?
Yeah. All right. Is this for Sam McDowell? Is this a kind of an alarming time for the Chiefs? Is this do you sound the alarms for the status of the offensive line? If we're looking at no Schwartz, no Fisher, and no Remmers.
On a one-game basis, yeah, but on a season-long basis, I mean, I still think that what matters for the Chiefs is the postseason. Even whether they get the 1 seed or the 2 seed, I also still think the Steelers are going to lose another game. But yeah, I mean, the Saints are 6th in the NFL in sacks. It's not the week to be missing tackles on both sides. You could potentially be missing your starting tackles and the top swing guy for both of those spots. So yeah, I mean, they're in trouble offensive line wise if they don't have all 3 of those guys this week.
I wonder, Melly, if the Chiefs are facing something on the offensive line that the Saints are at quarterback. Continuing to rest guys and perhaps risk losing the number 1 seed, but having Schwartz, Fisher being at full strength offensive line wise for the playoffs, even if that means losing a first round bye and having possibly play the AFC Championship game on the road.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I agree with everything that McDowell just said, but like, if you can, this may be a false choice, right? Like maybe this isn't the decision that's there to be made, but if I'm the Chiefs, I'd much rather be closer to full strength and play the wild card round than I would, kind of limp in, try to overextend yourself just to get the 1 seed. I don't know who that 7 seed would be, obviously, but I would think that the Chiefs at full strength could take care of that game. This is a big problem. I mean, you can do some stuff with scheme, right? Like you can do quicker passes and whatever, but they're basically down to what their 4th and 5th tackles.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, they can talk about next man up all they want, but there's a reason that good players get paid.
Yeah, Yasser Durant, this Missouri guy. It's neat to see him on the roster, and all of a sudden he's been thrust into he had 22 snaps at tackle against the Dolphins last week. So here's a guy with undrafted and and playing asked to be playing a nice role. And look, he did an acceptable job against the Dolphins, but it's not your first choice, is it, Vahe?
No, not your first choice, but both Sams are right. I'd like to say Herbie too, but he's not a Sam, so both Sams are right. I mean, this game might be a little mini not crisis, but just mini dilemma with some of these things. But they'll scheme it up accordingly. I'm not putting up a flag on their behalf, but they can lose and still prosper in the playoffs. I mean, I think that's okay. It's just we're so used to seeing them. We're in this find a way mode now, where the last 5 games they've won by a total of 21 points, and you want obviously on their behalf to see them continue, finding a way. So this will be a different kind of resourcefulness they'll have to have this week.
I remember the 2015 season where the Chiefs ended up winning the last 10 regular season games and then winning their first playoff game under Andy Reid. And I don't think there was a change in the offensive line, at least a starting assignment change, that entire stretch. And since then, it seems like they've always been dealing with some sort of injury issue, right? Having to replace a starter. And I guess that's more typical of NFL teams and seasons when you have to, plug in guys. I think I'm reminded this week of the Eric Fisher stat, right? The Chiefs last year, when he was out, I forgot, wasn't it like a core injury or a groin injury? But he missed like 10 games. Obviously it was 8 games, because the Chiefs were 4-4 in those games and 11-0 in games that he played. And this year, he's played in every one of these games, 12-1. So what does that make him? 23-1 when Fisher plays over the last 2 years. It's not a bad stat.
It's funny they give the quarterback
for a guy. Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, not a bad stat for a guy going for a contract, for sure.
I think the linemen of America will tell you it's time they get those on their ledger instead of on the pretty boy quarterbacks.
He's got fewer losses than Mahomes over the last 2 years. So.
He's had an interesting kind of career arc here. The only number 1 overall pick in Chiefs history, right? And it seems like he was getting crushed a lot here early. And I think a lot of it was just, if you're the first overall pick, you're supposed to be a Hall of Famer. But, no offense to anybody in that draft class, but a lot of people thought it was one of the worst draft classes ever. Right. And he had some struggles in the beginning. He switched positions. He had shoulder injuries and stuff like that. But I don't think there's any question that he is a damn good player. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer or whatever, but he is a starting left tackle for the best offense in the NFL, and he's not just along for the ride.
He's had a Pro Bowl season, or he's made the Pro Bowl one time. I think it was 2018, and then he's had his down moment too in the playoff game against the Steelers after the 2016 season, where he was the one who. Wasn't he the one who was flagged for holding Harrison, right? James Harrison, and took the 2-point conversion off the board, made the Chiefs try it again from the 15 or the 17 or something, and in the playoff game in the late in the fourth quarter. So, interesting guy who has quietly been a rock for this Chiefs offensive line, and he's also now along with Kelce and Anthony Sherman, the elder statesman of this team, at least when it comes to years of experience with the Chiefs. I think he's an Andy Reid original, along with Kelce and Sherman. I don't know who else is in that group.
Used to be the punter.
Hey, it's Blair. We have a special subscription offer for SportsBeat KC listeners: unlimited digital access to the Kansas City Star's award-winning sports coverage. Sign up now for 1 year of Sports Pass for access to all the sports news, features, and columns presented on the kansascity.com site, and it's only $30. That's a 40% savings off our regular rate. Your subscription will automatically renew after the initial term at $50 unless you tell us to cancel. Your subscription helps support the sports coverage of kansascity.com and the Kansas City Star, and that support has never been more important. Please visit kansascity.com/SportsBeatKC offer to get this special offer. And as always, thanks for listening. Well, speaking of Kelce, this has been a pretty publicity-filled week for the tight end. Not only because of the performances week after week, the consistency. He's just been amazing, and of course now he He leads the NFL in yards receiving and is bidding to become the first tight end to lead an NFL in receiving yards in a season. And is it 127 yards he needs to have the most receiving yards in a year by a tight end, held by Kittle. In fact, I remember a couple years ago, the Chiefs played the noon game on week 17. The Chiefs played a home noon game, and Kelce left that game with the record. The 49ers played later in the day, and Kittle passed him. So Kelce had the record for a couple hours once, but it doesn't look like anybody would catch him this year. And he's just having the best season of his career, and he is by far the premier tight end in the NFL. And Vahe, I know you've explored him in a bigger way this week, and it's not just the on-field stuff that where he excels.
Well, it's kind of funny. I was just in looking up things we've been writing about him. I mean, he's getting to be a little bit of a Mahomes-like presence for us recently because there's so many ways to kind of slice and dice aspects of him. In this case, Sam McDowell took the ball all the way down the court and then dished inside to me with an idea on an approach to Travis about sort of the blood and guts of why he's the Walter Payton Man of the Year on a team that has two other guys that are Sports Illustrated Sports Persons of the Year. He becomes the Walter Payton nominee for NFL Man of the Year. And a lot of it's through his foundation, but directed through Operation Breakthrough. And a thing that I think we've all noticed, and I'd be interested if anybody disagrees, but we've really noticed Travis Kelce just in interviews talk about things a little differently than he used to. And I think he's much more attentive, much more willing to really engage. And I thought he came off very sincerely last Friday when he was talking about what this means to him and what it means to do things off the field. And in speaking with Operation Breakthrough President Mary Esselman, that's really what she got into. The first story she told was about how among the hundreds of kids they have, one kid was asked what he remembers most about Travis, and it was that Travis remembered his name upon seeing him different times. So we know that these people in position to be generous, will do that and spend the money, and that's a great thing in itself, and share their resources. But the personal touch is something else too, and I think that reflects a little bit of how we've seen him grow on the field and as a person.
Hey, Melly, how to value his contribution to what the Chiefs' offense? And I would think that when you have a guy like that who does what he does, it just gives Andy Reid just even more pages for napkins to draw on for scheming offense. He's just been remarkable this year.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I guess this is Travis Kelce week at the Kansas City Star.
Indeed.
And the thing, I think it'll post tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's just all about the football. And it's more incredible than I thought. Both with film, like if you watch again, there was that 3rd and 1, I think in the third quarter. And he was lined up against Eric Rowe, who has an interesting background. That guy's a converted quarterback who the Dolphins just gave a 3-year extension to, specifically because he wipes out tight ends. He's one of the best in the league at covering tight ends. George Kittle had, I think, like 4 catches for 40 yards on 8 targets or something like that against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are one of the toughest teams in the league for tight ends. Hadn't given like an average of 39 yards this season for tight ends total, not per tight end, but total. And Kelce ripped him for 136. So anyway, that 3rd and 1, he's lined up against Rowe, and all you need is a yard. Kelce's going deep. Mahomes just chucks it. Back foot, it's underthrown a little bit. Should have been incomplete. It's one of those plays where a normal receiver, not just tight end, but a normal receiver is probably playing defense, trying to knock the ball away so it's not an interception. And he just bosses Rowe and makes the catch for, I think, like 32 yards or something like that. There's plays like that all over the film. And then if you go to numbers, his yards after the catch would be, I think, 8th or 9th overall for all tight ends in football this year, if you just included his yards after catch. This one blew my mind. Did you know that in a league with Tyreek Hill and DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams and all these guys, Travis Kelce has more explosive plays, which, as Herbie will tell you, is defined as plays 20 yards or more. He has more explosive plays than anybody else in the league. Travis Kelce, a tight end. I just find that to be absolutely insane. He's like this crazy, freakish combination of – he's obviously a big body. I think they list him at like 6'5", 260 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he's got the feet of like a two-guard in basketball. You know, his footwork, he finds this way to get people off leverage and all that, use leverage to get defensive backs off balance. I mean, he's just – the thing I keep thinking about is I think he's a Hall of Fame player, and this is as good as he's ever been. And I don't know that I don't know how much better he can get, but this is like, I just want to take a moment to recognize, acknowledge that this is a Hall of Fame player at the absolute height of his powers. Like, that's what we're seeing this year, and it's a pretty cool thing to watch.
For a franchise that knows something about having a Hall of Fame tight end, set a standard. And we've said it every year when it comes to Kelce. You know, he seems to be more mature, you know, and on the field and off the field. And there's no doubt that's, you know, his antics are in the past. Where, you know, if next year when the Chiefs play the Eagles and the Chiefs score a touchdown, we won't see Kelce flapping his wings, you know, to the Philly sideline. We won't see him throwing a towel as if it's a penalty. We're way beyond that when it comes to Travis Kelce. He doesn't celebrate his first downs the way he did demonstratively, the way he used to. When you talk about the explosive plays, first of all, a lot of his receptions start at 20, and then he puts the yards on after catch. But he also catches a lot of balls in the 10 to 15-yard range and turns them into explosive plays with his yards after the catch. He is he's just fun to watch. He is an absolute a tight end he's a wide receiver in a tight end's body, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the same way that like Tony Gonzalez's Hall of Fame montage probably had a lot of plays where he was running down the seam, and Trent Green, whoever's playing quarterback, just kind of throws it higher than the defender can get to, but low enough where Tony Gonzalez can get it. The same way, like that play was probably filled up in Gonzalez's Hall of Fame montage, and I think Kelce's will be, you know, some sort of out or in route, you know, going horizontal. He catches it, just plants that cleat, and then goes the exact opposite way, while the defensive back, you know, sort of, or linebacker, whoever, kind of flails about, just going the same direction. And Kelce uses that agility, that athleticism to explode the other way. Like that to me, when I close my eyes and think about like Travis Kelce's career and how he's different, I think that's a huge part of it, that play right there.
That montage really should include the mic'd up sequence with Mahomes.
Yeah.
On the sideline where he's saying, dude, I don't even know how you knew I was going to go there, because I didn't know I was going to go there, or however he put it.
Yeah, he said something like, there was nothing in practice or anything else that told you that I should have gone there. I should not have done that, but you knew I was going to do it. Yeah, and the thing is, like, Kelce, just like all these guys, right? Like, Kelce's better because Mahomes is his quarterback. Mahomes is better because Hill is his receiver. Like, all these guys, they play off of each other. But and Kelce has been super gracious. You know, he talks about, like, my career took off once Tyreek got here. You know, he's being a little bit humble, right? Because he had, I think it was 137 catches in the 2 seasons before Hill was on the team, and he had, I think, 1,125 yards, if I'm right. I'm not trying to Bill Self it, but I think it's like 1,100 and some yards that first season that Hill was basically like literally not just, you know, Jalen Ramsey, but like literally a return specialist, when Hill was just very much a part-time receiver. So, I mean, Kelce, there's no doubt he's better here than he would be if he was playing for the Vikings or whatever, just any other team. But he is a star on his own. He would be a stud anywhere in the league.
Paul Brashears asks, why isn't first downs achieved a stat that's recorded? Talking about Kelce, isn't there something on Pro Football Reference that does record?
There is. I'll look it up.
Yeah,
there is.
While you're doing that, he also had a fumble problem earlier in his career, and he Even though he had one early, he did have one this season. I think was it at Buffalo right at the end of the first half. But he doesn't have the problem that he had his first few years. So, hey Herbie, who defends Kelce for the Saints, and what? And they've got a pretty good tight end of their own.
Yeah, they got Jared Cook over there, a 2-time Pro Bowler, and he's actually pretty good, but he's nowhere near in the class as Travis Kelce. Jared Cook is older, obviously, but he doesn't have the speed. I don't think he has the pure athleticism that Kelce has. They got a couple of interesting bodies over there that could cover Kelce or attempt to cover him. They got a second-year safety in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who is a converted cornerback, but he now plays a lot of safety. He also defends against tight ends. Marcus Williams, their safety, their second-round draft pick from a few years ago, he can play against a tight end, but I don't think they're not going to put any of their linebackers on him. If anything, it's going to be one of those two safeties in an attempt to slow him down.
Did you find it, Sam? First down receptions? Sam had forgot to unmute himself, but
67.
Is that right?
67 of his 90 catches have gone for a first down, which is pretty freaking.
I would say that's a pretty nice percentage.
It's already no. 2 years ago he had 75, so closing in on a career high.
Does that show ranking in the league, Sam? Too? Is it?
I'd have to go. I'll go somewhere else to look that up.
It's hard to imagine anybody having more.
It's a lot. It's a big number. I'll mute myself and go look.
Brian LaBerge asks, do the Chiefs game plan any differently for this game because of their seeding? I mean, they're not locked into anything, but my thought is this is a team they could face in 2 more months, early February. I don't know, Sam McDowell. What do you, when you have a game of this magnitude this late in the season, do you think Andy Reid or the enemy or Spagnuolo does anything differently, dials it back a little bit, and just to save some stuff for this, in case they meet the Saints in the Super Bowl?
No, I don't. And the reason is because the Saints or whoever you play late in the season still has the film on your first 13 games and has still seen everything you've done. So there's no reason to hold anything back. I mean, we've talked about this a lot with Andy Reid, and I've written about it this year. They have such a collection of plays that they haven't run, and sure, some of those still aren't going to be run this week. I mean, we saw a play like Rose Bowl Parade that they ran all last year before finally breaking it out in the Super Bowl. I'm sure there's stuff like that they're not going to run this week, but it's not specifically because they're playing the Saints and this is a team that they might see again. That doesn't change the equation.
Travis Kelce first in first downs. DeAndre Hopkins is second with 64.
Okay. I find that to be a useful statistic. Pretty meaningful that that's the case. Okay, let's talk about the matchup in the game a little bit, because it is, look, you rarely do you get this late in the season this type of game, right? Because you're usually playing division opponents late in the season. But let's start with Herbie. We'll give predictions at the end of the show, but Herbie, nobody knows these two teams better than you, as we've well established. These are the last two teams that you've covered, and you covered the Saints at the beginning of last year, so you know them best. What can the Saints do to hurt the Chiefs and vice versa?
To me, when I look at these two teams, they're almost they're mirror images of each other. You look over on that Saints offense. If Breeze is playing, that's a star-studded offense. You've got Michael Thomas over there, the NFL's first $100 million wide receiver. You got Alvin Kamara, their do-it-all running back who can hurt you as a receiver. You've got Latavius Murray. The Saints like to run a combo running offense where you've got split between Murray and Kamara, and they hurt offenses that way. Jared Cook, we mentioned him. Emmanuel Sanders now in the mix. Drew Brees, he's older. He's been hurt a lot over these last 2 years, but he can still run that offense pretty darn well. And then obviously the Chiefs, they've got a star-studded offense. In 2018, this is a game that should have happened in the Super Bowl if not for questionable penalties that were not called in both championship games. The phantom roughing the passer call on Tom Brady, the most blatant missed pass interference call missed with the Saints and the Rams. So these two teams should have met a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl. But, when I look at these two teams, it's offensive star power. It's two of the NFL's brightest offensive minds over the last 15 years with Sean Payton and Andy Reid. And this is one of those games where you circle on the calendar like this is going to be a shootout, kind of like the Rams and the Chiefs from a couple of years ago. But it really depends on if Drew Brees is playing, because Taysom Hill, if he's starting at quarterback, Peyton cannot unleash what he wants to unleash.
Okay. Hey, let's just go down the list, guys, and talk about the matchup. We only got a few minutes left, but Sam McDowell, what do you think? How does this game play out? And listen, it's going to be probably the highest rated game this year. Let me give you a little factoid on that the Kansas City and New Orleans TV markets are Kansas City and then New Orleans 1 and 2 in the NFL when it comes to local TV ratings, right? Higher percentage of people in Kansas City and New Orleans watch the Chiefs and the Saints than any cities watching their teams in the NFL. So interest levels off the charts in a game like this. I just don't know the big significance of this game, but it is, look, it's high quality. It's 12-1 versus 10-3. How do you see it? How do you see it playing out?
Well, if the Saints are starting Taysom Hill, and I think that it's trending in that direction. The Chiefs have been really good against these types of quarterbacks this season. That they shut down Lamar Jackson. Cam Newton couldn't get anything going. These guys that rely on the dual threat to be successful, that they don't want to be one-dimensional, the Chiefs have made them one-dimensional, and they've shut these guys down. So I think that the Chiefs' defense against the Saints' offense is a more favorable matchup than we would have anticipated, obviously, before the season when we looked at this game. So I have a hard time believing that the Chiefs will let Taysom Hill beat them on Sunday.
And the Chiefs are favored, right, Sam?
Yeah. What's interesting, they're favored by 3 points, and I think Vegas, the sports books probably have a difficult time deciding how to do this line. And I'm actually surprised the line is up because we don't know which Saints quarterback is playing. Before the season, when the schedule came out, they still put out all the future lines anyways, and the Chiefs were only an underdog in 2 games when you looked at the schedule, at Baltimore, which they ended up being an underdog in that game, and then at New Orleans. And, now the game comes, Drew Brees isn't playing. I think the Saints are probably where we thought they would be, but it's just a personnel thing, I think, is the reason that the Chiefs are still favored by 3 or 3.5 this week.
Vahe, what think you?
I think that I'm looking at the defense this week too in a lot of ways. I mean, I think that they've been trending better, they've been playing better, but I think they need a not signature game, but a game where you feel like they answered the bell, and obviously circumstances are better than they would be with Brees playing. And I kind of look for the offense not to be vanilla. I mean, that never happens, but I don't know that they're going to unleash everything they've got unless it's really necessary, just in the sense of I think there is a little shadow boxing aspect to this in terms of maybe this being a first of 2. So I look for it to be a moderate scoring game, maybe Chiefs low 20s, 24-17, 24-21, something like that. But I think it's a chance for the defense to make its mark and the offense to just play a little cleaner game than it started out playing last week.
Melly, what do you think? I know I've got some offensive line concerns. So against the Saints defense, that's what prevents me from thinking from the reflex action of a Chiefs victory. I have to think about it some more. How about you? Yeah,
I mean, I know they just played Tom Brady a few weeks back, but this game and the Ravens game are the two that I've been looking forward to the most, like during the season. And in that context, it is a bit of a letdown that Taysom Hill is probably going to be the quarterback, and the Chiefs are probably going to be down or might be down to their 4th and 5th tackles. I wish this is a good enough game, these two teams, that you'd love to see it at full strength. But in the content or in the spirit of everything the Chiefs do is judged on what it means for the postseason. The tackles part of it is particularly just sort of a letdown because I really wanted to see the Saints have one of the best defenses in the league. It's probably Steelers then Saints. And I was just really looking forward to seeing this offense, which is obviously incredible in bursts, but doesn't always have consistency. I was just looking forward to that matchup. And at those positions and with the Saints pass rush, I do think that the Chiefs have to change some of the way that they call some things, depending on who's going to be playing those positions. Because, just not to mention the fact that you need your quarterback healthy for the postseason. So I do wonder if there's going to be less Tyreek down the field just because they don't want Mahomes to hold the ball that long, more quick passes. And the Chiefs can do that stuff. But I've been looking forward to this game because of what it would mean for the Chiefs playing a top shelf opponent, particularly defensively. And I just don't know that we're going to see that this year. And that's kind of a letdown. But anyway, you want your prediction. I'm going to say I think the Chiefs will win 27-23, something like that.
Okay. Hey, we got some great comments here. Papa Dei, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Le'Veon Bell needs to be the star of the playoffs. Experience counts. We'll see about that. I'll be interested to see what how the carries and attempts are distributed over the last few regular season games.
Hey,
Brian,
Blair,
yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick aside on Le'Veon Bell and Sam McDowell. I can't remember who else was on the call yesterday, but I know you were, Sam McDowell. Did you find it interesting that Andy Reid, upon being asked about Le'Veon Bell, the first words were like, it's kind of a weird deal? He was talking about Le'Veon's fit in the offense.
Well, I think his point was that a running back coming in midseason is more difficult than a lot of other positions because you've got to get used to your offensive line and see how they maneuver to know where the holes might open up. You've got some pass protection things. I mean, we all talked about the game in Denver where he didn't get his head around in time. There's just more to learn in a new offense, and he's not saying that Le'Veon Bell can't pick it up quickly. It's just a lot to process, that some things – take more than just flipping the pages through a playbook. You've got to see it and feel it for yourself.
And I wonder if a little bit of that wasn't a reaction to Le'Veon Bell's tweet after the game. It was I don't have it in front of me, but it was somewhat odd, sort of questioning. Sam McDowell, do you remember that?
I don't remember the exact tweet, but what I saw was more of a reference to the Steelers. Was there a second one that I missed?
No, it was one before that where he basically said he was confused or something. And it was, before the team had jumped on the airplane to go back home. And I wondered if that was about playing time or why he didn't get the carries late in the game. I remember when Edwards-Helaire lost 11 yards, which we don't have time to talk about, but I think the Chiefs really bungled that last field goal possession, ended up going backwards for 10, 11 yards before making the field goal attempt more difficult for Butker to clinch the game. But anyway, we could have talked about that more after the game.
Where I saw a subsequent tweet where it looked like it was some kind of jousting with fans. Like it looked like he was saying like somebody had called him out and said he was selfish, and then he was going back and forth. It was a little hard to tell chicken and egg. Sorry to interrupt again. No, that's good. No, good. Brian Johnson wonders if we're going to see Jameis Winston on Sunday and not Taysom Hill. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? If Jameis Winston got the call, I don't know if we'll see that.
Would not be the first time this season that the Chiefs have prepared for a quarterback and another one started though.
It happened against the Patriots.
Happened against the Chargers too.
And the Chargers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Good point. Okay.
Trainer breaking the ribs, the old trainer breaking the ribs thing or whatever that.
That's right. Okay, you guys. So it sounds to me like just with a nod of the head, everybody would pick the Chiefs to win this game. I'm going Saints. I just think I think the game is important. I think there's a perception issue here for Peyton and the Saints. I think they're going to put a lot into it, and they're coming off a real disappointing loss. They had won 9 straight before losing to the Eagles, and talking about a little quarterback switcheroo. That's what Philadelphia dropped on New Orleans last weekend with Jalen Hurts. So I think I'm going to, in the paper, pick the Saints to win this game. I don't think it'll impact the Chiefs in the long run. All they'd have to do is win out, beat the Falcons and the Chargers in the last 2 games, and they lock up the number 1 seed in the AFC. So, guys, I think that'll do it for today. I do want to leave on this note, and I just wanted to give a shout out to a friend of ours, Amy Just, who covers the Saints for NOLA.com and the New Orleans Times-Picayune. She's a KU grad, a Nebraska native, and we saw a lot of her in the Arrowhead Stadium press box or over at Allen Fieldhouse covering Kansas games. This would be a weekend I think we would all look forward to covering the Chiefs and Saints in New Orleans, but none of us, of course, will be there. We just haven't been on the road with the Chiefs since the first couple of road games for the reasons that are obvious. So shout out to Amy, and maybe we'll see you at the Super Bowl. So for Vahe, Sam, and Herbie, and our producer, Beth Welsh, thanks for joining us, and make sure to be back with us after the Chiefs game against the Saints on Sunday. That'll do it for today. Thanks to our production staff of Derek Donovan, Beth Welsh, Monty Davis, Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, Chris Fickett, and Savannah Smith. A tip of the cap to Herbie Teope, Sam McDowell, Vahe Gregorian, and Sam Mellinger for talking Chiefs with us on SportsBeat Live this morning. Their stories can be found in the show notes and on kansascity.com. Speaking of kansascity.com, we got another deal for you, especially for those who want to deep dive into the Stars' terrific Chiefs coverage. For a limited time, you can subscribe to Sports Pass for 99 cents a month. That's right, 99 pennies a month. After 3 months, it auto-renews at $5.99 a month unless you cancel. How do you get it? You go to kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. That's kansascity.com/SportsPass2020. Do you want more than just sports coverage? I know I do. Check out the entire Kansas City Star product. Sports, news, features, commentary, and analysis, the whole thing. You get all of the stories written by my talented colleagues, plus additional news, sports, and business coverage with the e-edition. The details for all of these deals can be found at account.kansascity.com/subscribe. And if you're having trouble hunting down any of these offers, send me an email, bkerkhoff@kcstar.com, and I'll get you to the right place. So whether it's the Sports Pass or the full subscription, you're getting and supporting the best sports and news coverage in Kansas City and helping us produce programs like SportsBeat KC. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back on Friday with another episode.